What's going on, people? Let me know if you can hear me okay. We're going to have a little bit of fun this morning. Oh, Momar, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Mike, thanks for letting me know. I know it's a little bit early for a lot of people, but but we're gonna do this, get this out the way now because it's coming. It was a long time coming, and a lot of people are about to do their Beto videos today. It's gonna be a long day of Beto videos, I'm sure, but it's okay. It's okay. We need it. As usual, we're gonna get started about the 5:30 mark. Kenneth Hennig. Any beta males? I mean Beto males. Well, in Spanish, Beto would be the male version of beta. Just kidding. Don't use the word beta male. I mean, unless you're using it to actually insult like males who call other males beta male just because they're progressive. Because that's really, I mean, like, I know it's going to sound messed up, but like, you know how Mike Cernovich is always calling people beta males? And I'm always like, usually people who use the term beta male that often are probably beta males. Like, I've never known alphas to constantly have to verbally reassert their dominance over quote unquote betas. I've never known any alpha that has had to do that. Like, K-Matt, I'm waiting for Biden too. Let them scrap over the centrist vote. Amen to that. Although, I believe realistically, Beto has a better chance of taking votes away from progressives than Biden. And I think he also does have a centrist draw as well because he's been able to play that line really well, and he's been able to. I don't think progressives are as fooled by him as they used to be. There are still some out there who believe in Beto, but we're going to equip you today with the information to counter those narratives. No worries. Niko got you. I know a lot of people did not get the notification this morning, but it's fine. Y'all will, I'm sure, come back and watch it later. Beatrice. CNN had the nerve to say his main policy would be climate. Boy, ain't that some audacious shit to say? Ain't that some that's audacious. It's almost like you don't know. So you're, Lord Jesus. We're gonna talk about Beto's oil money, but it's just funny to me because there are a lot of people who probably would have, and there are probably some that do believe it, but like the people who are like in the middle, maybe independents, but left leaning, like, oh wow, he's really good on climate change. Well, let me go look at his record on climate change. And then they're going to find out everything we know, or everything I'm about to tell you. So, Steve Jones, we need young viable candidates like Joe Biden, right? I said it before, Leroy. I said it before and I'll say it again. Beto is liked because people hate Ted Cruz. It's so true. And what's so bad about it is the fact that Ted Cruz is possibly the most hated senator in all of Congress. And yet Beto couldn't beat him. And somehow he thinks he's going to be able to beat Trump in states like Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin and Michigan when you couldn't beat the most. I mean, even Texas people hate Ted Cruz. So that's what's interesting to me. But all right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I don't want to take up too much time, and we'll let everybody else come back and watch this later. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this live stream segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. I am, of course, as always, your humble host, Niko House. And I know it's early morning. Thank you all for joining me this early. I know California isn't awake yet. At least most of them are not. So shout out to all my East Coast people and the few California people that decided to wake up for this. So I'm sure you all got the news last night and this morning. Beto O'Rourke, aka Beto Obama, aka Chip Skylark, my shiny teeth in me looking little boy, has announced that he's running for president. And I got happy. I actually did. Because basically what I've taken, Beto O'Rourke and even Joe Biden both coming out this week and saying like, yeah, we're going to have to do this, is that the corporate candidates right now that are in aren't getting the job done. And so that they were probably pushed into announcing. Biden hasn't announced yet, but he's going to. It's imminent. But that lets me know that the progressives are winning. They don't have their quote unquote Hillary Clinton yet, right? They don't have the one who has proven that their name recognition can win them an election, is basically what's happening. And between Bernie and Tulsi, and even Andrew Yang is catching up to the centrists. Like, he is even in some of the, I think he just reached his $65,000 goal, or $65,000 donation goal to get on the debate stage. And even still, even Andrew Yang, I believe, is polling at 1 or 2% in some of the polls recently. And so he'll likely end up on that debate stage anyway now. But now there is a guarantee that he'll get there. Still need to donate to Tulsi. I don't think that they've done their final reporting yet. But I'm sure they're close to it as well. So make sure that you donate to Tulsi. And that way we can make sure she gets on that debate stage also. But we're seeing that Bernie, Tulsi, and even Yang are doing much better than I think the establishment expected. And they're doing it without having to attack each other or undercut each other. They're doing it and focusing on really, Bernie is focusing more on domestic policy, right? And Andrew Yang has been focusing on one specific policy as far as trying to deal with automation and compensate people who will undoubtedly be hurt by automation and just in the, I guess, modernized contemporary industrialization over the next few years. And then Tulsi, of course, we know is focusing more so on foreign policy and anti-regime change. So they're covering down on all the bases, leaving no room for centrist platitudes, right? And being aware of this, I think that is what has pushed them to basically say, Beto, you need to run. And Joe Biden, I know you were thinking about not running, but we need you to get into this race. And even Stacey Abrams' name has been mentioned a few times since in the last couple of days. And now I will admit, though, I can't even lie, guys. Stacey Abrams would be a problem. She's not on our team anymore, but she would be more of a problem. I would be more fearful of Stacey Abrams than I would be of Beto. I'll put it like that. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But so I had to do this live stream. Now, of course, we're going to do separate videos covering these all these topics over, you know, the next few months, whether it be the oil money, APAC stuff, progressivism, all that good stuff, PAC money, all that. We're going to talk about all that over the next few months, but I'm trying to give a crash course in Beto O'Rourke so that after this video, you'll be able to go forward, go into these Facebook chats and comment sections, go into these Twitter battles, go into these real life battles, and basically take these people down when they try to tell you that Beto is a quote unquote progressive. If you want to vote for him because he's a centrist and you know he's a centrist and maybe he got a pretty smile or something like that, yeah, but maybe that's okay. That's your problem. You're an idiot. You can't really be mad at anybody else for that. But if you're going to vote for him because you think he's a progressive, then we have problems, because that means you're being you're a tool at that point because he's not progressive. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is Beto's ties to big oil. Now, during the election, during the Senate race, it was interesting because this is something that didn't come up very much until like after the race was over. And I think it may have been because I know he was taking a lot of money when he was in the House of Representatives, but I think the reason why it didn't come up, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think it was the reason, is because he didn't start taking that money until like the very, very last push for donations so that it wouldn't come back to bite him in the ass right before the election was over. Now, maybe the week of elections, maybe a week before, people did start, because they had to report their last quarter, and so people saw it. But by the time he started, or the elections actually started, as in they started to vote, early voting and things like that, it was kind of too late. Enough people didn't know about it. But the oil money problem came out like majorly after the election was over. And as it turned out, Beto O'Rourke takes some, you know the only person that takes more oil money than Beto O'Rourke, ironically enough? The man who beat him for the Senate, Ted Cruz. In other words, Beto O'Rourke took more oil money than everybody else in the House of Representatives. That's a little problematic, don't you think? I mean, even Beatrice in the chat just said CNN tried to claim that Beto O'Rourke is primarily running on climate change, which is laughable. And if you're going to run on climate change, how are you going to take oil money? Like, maybe you shouldn't have took the oil money before you tried to run on climate change. Maybe just be smart and take it during the general election. Like, I don't know. But once again, y'all, I'm telling y'all, these consultants are stupid as hell. Who is coaching these candidates? Seriously, call me, y'all. I don't know everything, but I know a little bit about a lot, okay? And I damn sure know if you're going to try to deceive the public, maybe you should do it after you need their vote, right? Maybe not do it when you need their vote, when you're still trying to prove that and while claiming that, never mind, Beto did not claim he's a progressive. They tried to label him as a progressive, but then he himself came out and said, I'm not a progressive. So even though, that's a start to the big oil money problem. So you can't run on climate change and take big oil money. I think that we're all in agreement with that. I don't care who you are. You gotta know. That's just, they're antithetical. You can't do it. But it's a bigger problem when it comes to taking oil money. There is. Beto is taking a lot of oil money, and we're right now in the middle of establishing a coup with the country that has a lot of oil. And a country, by the way, where I believe it is the Koch brothers are trying to gain access to their oil supply, to their oil supply. Because, so the Koch brothers, basically right now the oil they're refining, it's funny enough, it isn't crude enough. It's too clean. So because of how clean the oil is, they're not making as much money as they possibly could. Now, Venezuelan oil is very crude, isn't refined at all, and they could make a lot more money if they got the Venezuelan oil and, you know, built their pipelines and things like that so that it would travel the oil back to Texas, ironically enough, where the Koch brothers oil refinery exists. So I ask you this: if you're anti-regime change, you're anti-regime change in Venezuela specifically, you're an advocate for keeping hands off of Venezuela, what exactly do you think is going to happen if you hire the man who's taking money from the people who want Venezuela under United States control and their oil under our control? Once again, I can't really stress enough how much you're going to do what your employer says. And your employer, like in almost any other situation, well, I don't care if you're an independent contractor or an employee on a W-2, you're going to do what your employer says, and the employer is the person who's paying you. Especially the one who's paying you the most. They don't give money to candidates because, you know, out of goodwill. They don't do it because the Koch brothers are magnanimous and they just really appreciate the progressive perspective that Beto O'Rourke brings to the presidential race. That's not why they do it. Okay? So taking the oil money, first of all, once again, you can't run on climate change when you're taking big oil. You can't. But then there's the real Venezuela problem, the real Syria problem. Basically, at this point, taking money from big oil, especially when you're taking the most only next to Ted Cruz. So out of the Democrats, you're taking the most. The big oil right now, especially, it's always been this way. But now it should be more clear given what we know about what's going on in Syria and what we know about what's going on in Venezuela, and even still what we know about what's going on in Iran. Big oil equals military industrial complex, period, point blank. So by taking money from big oil, you are taking money from the military industrial complex, because we know that is the reason that many of these regime change wars are waged. And I don't think that can be stressed enough. Speaking of the military industrial complex, seems that Beto has a little love affair with the military industrial complex. In his last race, he took $22,000 from Lockheed Martin. 22,000. I want to make sure I'm correct on that. We're gonna look at my source. That's just what I remember reading, but I don't want to make nothing up. So this article is from the 71st Republic. Just want to read you a little excerpt from it. So last year's election was with polarization. That was a typo on their behalf. With bitter fights in states such as Texas, where the incumbent Ted Cruz narrowly defeated challenger Beto O'Rourke. The country's politicians seem more divided than ever. Many Democrats ran on an anti-Trump line, whereas many Republicans did the opposite. But one thing about the election season was eerily unified. Most of the Senate took money from Lockheed Martin and other military-industrial complex companies. Lockheed Martin and political contributions. Lockheed Martin is the top defense contractor for the United States. Many advancements in offensive military technology, such as the infamous F-16 fighter jet, have come from their company. Beyond that, the Military Industrial Complex Corporation also specializes in donating money to national campaigns for both political parties. Once again, reaffirming what we already know. It isn't about the D. It isn't about the R. The only sign that matters to either side of the establishment is the dollar sign. So, hold on. I gotta find. Where's it at? There we go. Yeah, I was right. Boom. I was correct. Beto O'Rourke took 22,000. And he took the what? 1, 2, 3. He took the third most money out of or from Lockheed Martin out of all the Democrats running last year. So once again, like I was just saying, we know Venezuela is a problem. We're trying to get someone who can defeat Trump. You can't defeat Trump by being more pro regime change in Venezuela than Trump is. Because when he hired Elliot Abrams, it showed us that there is nobody who's more pro Venezuela regime change than Trump. Like, that was it. That was the sign that he's not playing. He really plans and intends on getting them out to the degree that he'll even institute a false flag operation, which is sad and really, man. I know if you're a former Trump supporter, you got to be pissed because he played y'all. There's no isolationist in that, man. He lied straight to people's face. So, but from the strategic standpoint of just being able to win, just from what I've talked to us about before, we're talking about electability. We're talking about the ability to beat Trump. If you're a Democrat, that's what they're talking about. Because Trump is the biggest problem that they've ever had, apparently, and da-da-da-da. So you take the oil money that Trump is willing to take. You take the military-industrial complex money that Trump is willing to take. You are once again, if you're taking the military-industrial complex money and you're taking the oil money, that means you're not doing anything different in Venezuela, so you can't run on that. When I last checked, he recognized Juan Guaido as the president. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he did. So that's also problematic. So you can't beat Trump on Venezuela. You can't beat Trump on Syria because you're a Democrat. We know how y'all beat those war drums. They beat the war drums for Syria more than Donald Trump does. So you can't beat him on that. You can't beat him on not taking corporate money because you're taking corporate money. You took corporate money during your Senate campaign. So of course you're going to take money now. So you can't beat him on that. I'm starting to get a little confused. What exactly is Beto O'Rourke going to run on? Once again, you can't run on climate change. You just took a bunch of oil money and you're going to take more. Of course. But you don't think you're going to beat him on good looks? What, this ain't 1980 or what year did JFK run against Nixon? 1970s? Or was it the 60s? No, 1970s. Was it 70s? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the 70s. You saying JFK and Richard Nixon, you don't get the win just because you're the prettiest candidate? You got to say something good. Say something that people agree with. Platitudes aren't going to work because, don't get it twisted, Trump can use platitudes too. Make America Great Again is the most, I mean, look, it worked with Reagan, okay? Make America Great Again literally worked with Reagan. And then Trump used it, and it still worked. You can't out-platitude Trump. His platitudes serve a specific demographic of America that vastly outnumbers every other demographic. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So you have to appeal to voters by being, I don't know, maybe more progressive than Trump, which isn't that hard to do, but yet people like Beto O'Rourke and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden suck at doing it. I don't get it, but whatever. Maybe, just maybe, he's better when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict. Just kidding. Beto O'Rourke, progressive, quote unquote, except for on Palestine. Beto O'Rourke has become Texas's progressive golden boy in his fight to oust Senator Cruz in the upcoming midterm elections. But when supporters of Palestine asked O'Rourke, a Democratic member of Congress, about his stance on the issue, he sent a response that could have easily been issued by a Republican. The email from O'Rourke's campaign described him as not only an advocate of Israel, but a proud advocate of Israel. I think we all know where this is headed, right? O'Rourke believes that Israel is critically important to the United States because it is home of Jewish people, because it is an exemplary democracy that shares our values, and because it is a crucial contributor to our national security in the region, his campaign stated in the email. O'Rourke met with, isn't that funny? That is like the stock response for every Democrat who is supporting Israel because of the money, one, but also because they don't want to have AIPAC fund the other campaign against them, two. Because Ilhan Omar was right. AIPAC does have too much power in this country, and they do have too much monetary influence over our politicians in one way or another. So, O'Rourke met with the Israel lobby giant AIPAC in 2017, according to a photo posted on Facebook. The AIPAC representative he met, Stuart Shorts, was the very man who accused O'Rourke of siding with the rocket launchers and terror tunnel builders a few years earlier. Ted Cruz actually blasted O'Rourke for accepting some $172,000 from the liberal Zionist group J Street. The Democratic candidate, as Cruz pointed out, has promised he will take no money from political action committees, but he will take money that basically, the whole point of not taking money from political action committees, I hate how people have taken what Bernie did and what he said, and they've tried to basically weasel their way around it. I'm not going to take any money from a PAC, but I'm going to take it from this big old group over here and do what they tell me to do, but I'm not taking PAC money, so officially you can't be mad at me, technically, I think. It's basically what happens. I mean, if I'm lying, I'm dying, but that's what just happened. Because come on, same thing. Even Elizabeth Warren, but she's even said that she was going to take PAC money if she wins the general. So, and she was very proudly about that. So, you can't beat Trump on oil. We're going down the list again. Okay, you can't beat Trump on Venezuela, nor Syria, or war in general, because you love the military-industrial complex and you vote with the military-industrial complex 98% of the time. You can't beat Trump on platitudes because, once again, Trump is the king of platitudes. He can platitude your ass to a very dominant win, clearly. And it's, once again, it's unfortunate, but I'm a realist. I don't have any disillusion about what we're up against. You can't even beat Trump on AIPAC. You're not, matter of fact, I'm not even gonna let my words tell you. This is from the Chicago Tribune. Literally start, the article is titled, Beto O'Rourke is not the progressive some might imagine. I'm going to go down to the, hold on. Where is it at? This is once again from the Chicago Tribune. As Zaid Jilani pointed out at Current Affairs, O'Rourke's congressional voting record signals skepticism about progressive priorities. While the Democratic base is coalescing around single-payer health care and free college, O'Rourke sponsored neither House bill, Jilani wrote. During this time in Congress, he never joined the Congressional Progressive Caucus either. Instead, O'Rourke is a member of the New Democratic Coalition, a centrist caucus with Clintonian views on healthcare, education, and trade. We actually did a video on the New Democratic Coalition, and I think that you all may recall this. This coalition basically has all of the Clintonites in it, and is dedicated to making sure the party stays centrist. W. Washington Schultz is part of this. And Beto O'Rourke is also a part of that coalition. So instead of joining the Progressive Caucus, isn't it interesting that until he allowed himself to be called a progressive for the entirety of his election, then whenever they started talking about presidency, when they started talking about, well, maybe you should run because you have really nice teeth, he was like, well, I mean, I got to be in the center then, right? Oh, I'm not really a progressive. I'm not a progressive. What you talking about? He said that. He said he's not a progressive. But he was okay with utilizing that label to further his own interests. Interesting, right? What's also funny is that he took the pledge and he actually signed on to a pledge which is progressive of him until the second part, which I'm about to tell you, to not take any fossil fuel money. I don't even think he lasted 3 or 4 months. He took his name off the pledge, clearly, about not taking fossil fuel money, so that he could, of course, take fossil fuel money. Interesting. So you're flip-floppy. So you can't be a Trump on that either. You're flip-floppy. You're flippity-flop-flop. I'm still trying to understand what exactly about Beto O'Rourke screams, I can beat Trump. I'm like, even if you like him, right? Even if you like him as a person, maybe if you even like him as a candidate, what exactly about Beto is inspiring to you? What makes you think he can pull independents into the fold to vote for him rather than voting for Trump? What makes you think he can even flip Trump voters? Because he's not going to tell the truth about the military-industrial complex. He's not going to tell the truth about APEC. He's not going to tell the truth about, he's going to talk about platitudes about climate change, but he's not going to actually address it. Just saying. I'm all about electability also. But he's not it. He's not electable. I'm going to continue with the article. When it comes to Medicare for all, O'Rourke has been carefully unclear about his stance. Don't you love that? Carefully unclear. A Politico article from July notes that at least for a time, he had sworn off using the terms single payer or Medicare for all, instead using less specific, policy-neutral phrases like universal, guaranteed, high-quality healthcare for all. His campaign website remains unclear, stating that he aims for achieving universal healthcare coverage. Why are you doing this to me? There you go. Whether it be through single payer system or a dual system or otherwise. O'Rourke's Other progressive-ish policy positions tend to follow along these lines. While some progressives rallied by talking of a Green New Deal, have argued for higher taxes on oil and gas company profits, fossil fuel lobbyists to be banned from working in the White House, and a whole economy overhaul, sliding American jobs into producing carbon neutral infrastructure. O'Rourke's statements on energy have been surprisingly thin. He's called the decision between oil and gas and renewable energy sources a false choice. Now, why would Beto say something like that? Why would Beto O'Rourke say that the decision between oil, gas, and renewable energy sources is a false choice? Why would he say that? I mean, you think it could have anything to do with that oil money he's taking? You think it has anything to do with the fact that he's taking the second most oil money other than Ted Cruz? Do you think it has anything to do with that? His employer, as I like to say. So if how are you going to lead on climate change? That's what you look. Oh my goodness gracious. Boy, sweet baby Jesus. Damn Bojangles. I don't get it. How can people be this stupid? How can you be a candidate? You can't. First, you this stupid. You can't even run a country. You can't run a country. I'll be damned. You can't be this idiotic, this short-sighted, and think that I'm going to vote for you to run a country. You didn't even have the foresight to say, I might want to run for another office one day. Maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't run on a platform that totally contradicts everything I've said and all the money I've taken in the past. Maybe that. Like, I can't deal with these. Like Kamala, I'm going to run on pro-black, being pro-black. I'm going to run on criminal justice reform. But I've taken money from cops, taken money from law enforcement, have the record for putting black men in jail in California, try to keep innocent people in jail, and have literally corrupted the system to make sure that I could keep people in jail. And this criminal justice system I'm supposedly trying to fix, I took full advantage of. But I'm going to run on criminal justice reform. Bruh, you can't be stupid and be the president. Like, we already see where that leads, right? We're kind of in the middle of it right now. Ronald Reagan, same thing. Ronald Reagan was stupid. He was not a smart man. He was an actor. And look what it led to him stealing money from Social Security and putting it back in the Treasury because he was trickle-down economics sucked. Harry Truman, another dumbass. Harry Truman ignited the Cold War because he didn't even realize that there was an agreement made before FDR died at the Yalta Conference. So he thought Stalin was lying about the United States and Churchill and Great Britain agreeing that Stalin could have the Eastern European countries that a lot of his people died protecting. That was the agreement. But Truman, being a dumbass, was easily manipulated. Reagan, being a dumbass, was easily manipulated. Trump, being a dumbass, was easily manipulated. Woodrow Wilson, being the token dumbass, he was bought. They paid Teddy Roosevelt to start the Bull Moose campaign because they wanted to split the Republican votes because Teddy was okay, but they wanted to guarantee that Woodrow Wilson's dumb ass would get in office because they were trying to spark off World War I, and they knew Woodrow Wilson would be the dumb ass to fall for everything they tell him to. What do they all have in common? Dumbassity is not limited to Democrat or Republican. Clearly. And I'm not trying to have another dumbass in office that won't deal substantively with this military-industrial complex, that won't deal with substantively the climate change crisis that we are facing today. And if you don't have the foresight enough to make decisions, at least 2 or 3, make political decisions that will benefit you for at least 2 to 4 years. At least that. But Beto O'Rourke hasn't even made political decisions that benefit him 6 months from his damn election. And you want me to vote for this man? Nah, I'm good on that. I'm good on that. Y'all, I'm hot. I'm tired. It's early in the morning. It's too damn early to be this hype. But y'all know, like, I'm sure you feel the same way I do. I'm tired of having my intelligence played by this dumbass establishment. I don't know how many times I can say dumbass in this conversation, but there's a lot of dumbassity going on right now. Okay, I think I earned this right at this point. You try to play me with Kamala. You try to play me with Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren got some damn nerve. Her dumb ass. She can't be president either. Yo, dumb ass. Endorse Hillary Clinton. The one who is remember the whole Wall Street speeches problem that we were all talking about for 2 years during that election? And Elizabeth Warren's supposed to be the executioner of Wall Street, if you will. That's her whole shtick. Getting are going hard on Wall Street, putting more regulations on Wall Street. That's her whole thing. And what'd she do? You know what? I hate Wall Street that much, so much, that I'm gonna endorse Hillary Clinton. Huh? Wait a minute, that don't sound right. What'd you say? When she did it, I was like, huh? Whoa, wait a minute. And it was weird because she did it almost. She endorsed Hillary almost right after the Wall Street speeches were released, where Hillary was talking about a public position, a private position to Wall Street. And then you endorse, then you endorse Hillary. Once again, if you were that short-sighted, I don't need your dumb ass to be president because you knew you were running for president and you still endorse Hillary Clinton. You've seen the Clintons betray and backstab damn near everybody they can to remain at the top. And I'm sure that at some point, Elizabeth Warren probably thought she was going to be VP. Let's be honest. She probably thought she would be VP. And look what happened. Her record has forever been tarnished. Then she engages in a battle with Donald Trump over how Native American she is. In turn, she's like 1/2000th Native American. So no, she's not Native American, the moral of the story. But what was bad about that is she exposed herself as taking advantage of a system that was meant for the legitimately disenfranchised. And she used that to elevate her career into the position she had right now. And she wasn't just other than being a woman. Yeah, okay, I'll give her that. Being a woman in a time where it was hard to be a woman. But you were not a Native American woman. You are a lily white. You about whiter than Bernie is. And Bernie is white. At least Bernie hangs out with Killer Mike. Okay. But once again, another candidate who didn't have the foresight to realize, if I'm going to run for president, maybe I should start making beneficial decisions now. Like, say what you want about Tulsi. I love Tulsi. Tulsi is still, it's still a competition between Bernie and Tulsi, depending on where because I'm literally not making the decision until they get to Florida, because so much happens by that time. But, which luckily I have the luxury to do because we're not one of the first states. So, I don't, for Tulsi, at least she had the foresight. She could be playing all of us, right? She's not. Her I talked to her family at this point. They're awesome, right? Her team is awesome. But say if Tulsi was playing us all for fools. You know what? I'm like, she might be playing us all for fools, but she's smarter than I am because she fooled everybody. Because she had the foresight to realize, shit, I'm thinking about running for president. Maybe I should get my shit together before I decide to run for president. Maybe that's a smart thing to do. Maybe I'll join the Bernie team instead of join the Hillary squad. You know? Maybe Nina's playing this all for fools too. Nina's like, I want a VP spot. Let me be smart and join the winning team instead of the dumbass team. The team of dumbasses. The Three Stooges team. Okay? Like, my point is, you can't be president and be a dumbass. Like, you can be president and be a dumbass. But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to vote for a president who's a dumbass, because those are the ones who do things like start wars, launch nuclear weapons on Japan, invade Syria, invade Venezuela, start Cold Wars, start World War I, start the federal bank. Get rid of state militias. Limit the Congress to only 400 or 500 representatives when it should be well over 4,000. Dumbasses are the ones who are manipulated. Beto O'Rourke is that dumbass. Okay? He is the king dumbass at this point. Because you done ran on being the Bernie-crat. That was your whole shtick, being a Bernie-crat. You didn't even give it a couple of days until you lost. It's just like with Andrew Gillum. That dumbass can't be president either. Yes, Andrew Gillum is a dumbass. Boy, you didn't even finish your election before you pivoted away from single payer. Andrew Gillum and Beto O'Rourke get dumbass of the day. Because you can't run as a Bernie-crat and then gather all the votes and the donations that come with being a Bernie-crat and think you're going to flip on us and switch on us and you still going to win an election. I think, if anything, Beto O'Rourke and Andrew Gillum have re-solidified, and even Elizabeth Warren's poor performance to date, they have re-solidified the truth that I have been preaching since 2016. Progressives have a very long memory and apparently way too much time on our hands because we're really good at researching. If you flip, it's one thing if you were never part of our movement, then like we don't like you, right? We don't like you. We don't really talk about you. Like Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, and like we don't worry about Kirsten Gillibrand. We don't worry about them. We're like, y'all have always been neoliberal. It's easy y'all not going anywhere. If you've always been neoliberal, there's no chance in hell that you're going to be able to win. But like when you're a Beto or Andrew Gillum, where you've taken our Bernie-crat progressive money, you've taken our Bernie-crat and progressive platforms, you've even, for both Gillum and O'Rourke, you convinced our revolution that you were one of them and got their endorsement, which I know for a fact they regret doing. They regret endorsing those two. Because they were given misinformation about both of them. That was done on purpose. It's corruption. You know how that goes. But you took our money. You took our time. And every time you take money away from a progressive that donates, progressives aren't rich, people. I could have donated. I'm not saying I didn't, but I'm saying someone who donated to Beto could have donated that money to Summer Hernandez instead. Somebody who donated to Andrew Gillum could have donated that money to Maria Estrada in California in her monumentous race. You take money from a progressive, that means you're taking money away from other progressives that really need it and who are actually on our team. So when you take all of our resources, drain our television time, drain our assets as a progressive movement, and we have very few assets as a progressive movement. That's our biggest problem, is the economics of the movement, because a lot of people who are progressive are disenfranchised. Bro, that pisses us off like no other. We will dedicate an ungodly amount of time to making sure your political career dies. I mean, as dead as it can possibly get. That's what we do when we figure out. Remember what happened to Gillum? What happened to Gillum? Gillum had a walk-off home run here in Florida. The guy was solidly in the lead. Ron DeSantis, which, by the way, as a disclaimer, Ron DeSantis is actually doing a decent job here in Florida. You didn't hear that from me, though. Just tell somebody you read it somewhere, because I don't want to let everybody know. But, this man is doing some damn good stuff. He's got an environmental coalition. He's gotten rid of Common Core. He's actually having the Broward County school system, which is Debbie Wasserman Schultz school system. He's going to assign a grand jury to basically vote on whether or not they should have oversight in Broward, because they have so much money, but the money keeps disappearing, as Elijah Manley, who's running for school board, let us know. And so Ron DeSantis is actually doing a better job than what we thought. It's kind of crazy. It's weird. Me and Tim Canova were talking about that the other day, and we were like, "Oh shit!" I'm actually really, really happy that Andrew Gillum didn't win. I'm telling you, it's always interesting. It's always interesting to see. That's why I say you gotta give people a chance sometimes. You can't be too quick to judge based off of Republican and Democrat. Ron DeSantis is going to say some things I don't like, and that's fine. He has a right to his opinion, but I'm pragmatic and I'm about policies. And when your first order of business when you get to office is putting together an environmental coalition to ban, and he banned fracking, like off rip, he banned fracking in Florida. Like, I couldn't believe it. But the only reason I Ron DeSantis, this is what happens when you stay true to your values. There are sometimes karma will reward you. Okay? We saw Andrew Gillum run on Bernie's platform. Bernie even came down here to endorse this man. And stomp for him. And as soon as he turns his back for all of 24 hours, Andrew Gillum stabs him in the back. Campaigns with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Campaigns with Hillary Clinton. Sits down with their donors. Takes big sugar money. Amongst other corporate money. And we were like, hell no. We ain't getting fooled again. Floridians band together. We told the truth. Despite the fact that people were trying to hold us back from doing so and trying to critique us because they were worried about their self-interest. And look what happened. We're being rewarded for the pursuit of truth, even though optically it looked like Andrew Gillum was the best candidate, because all they focused on was Ron DeSantis' comments about quote unquote monkeying it up and calling him a racist. But like, yeah, Hillary Clinton and Debbie Wasserman Schultz are also racist. And Gillum didn't have a problem with them either. So like, it's a little weird for you to say that we shouldn't vote for DeSantis because he's racist, but it's okay because Andrew is just associating himself with racists. It's different. And we got rewarded in the weirdest way. Like, we really banning fracking? Ron DeSantis might get my vote just off of that. Because if any of you know anything about Florida, we ain't got much time. Luckily, I can swim. I'm all right. But everybody else might not be able to swim. But my point is, when it comes to the Andrew Gillums, when it comes to the Beto O'Rourke, when it comes to Kamala Harris's, vote your conscience and you will be rewarded. Voting our conscience for Jill Stein ended up with Jill Stein being able to prove election fraud and having Pennsylvania being forced to use hand-counted paper ballots because of the court cases she was able to launch, because of the votes that we voted for or that we put in, not because we thought or we knew she could win because we know that the system is rigged, but because we voted our conscience. And now we're being rewarded. Everybody, really, who voted their conscience, which I truly believe is the majority of the population in some way, form, or fashion. We're seeing the rewards come in a different way, which is why I always say, do not define your victories the same way that the establishment does. Just because you didn't get a pretty title or you didn't get a nice office with a little placard doesn't mean you didn't win. Okay? Bernie Sanders is a perfectly good example of that. If Tulsi doesn't win this election, you don't think that she isn't going to be set up for some type of future presidency, like within the next 4 to 8 years? You don't think she's going to get a Secretary of State or a VP position? You don't think that Nina isn't going to be able to settle into a position that will ultimately benefit? And Nina sacrificed. Nina was not able to campaign as effectively as she wanted to because she thought that the last election meant so much to her that she lost her Senate seat in Ohio to do what was right. So the least that we can do is vote our conscience. Vote based off of the information that we have and check and vote for who is the better candidate. And if none of them are legitimately the better candidate, then advocate for issues. Advocate for policies. Vote for the people where you do have a good choice. But I promise you, we're almost to the finish line. We're almost there. I can feel it. But we can only get there if we continue to educate ourselves on these issues, educate ourselves on these candidates, and ultimately tell the truth. And with that being said, people, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Miss Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. I don't know how many times I'm gonna have to say this, but check to make sure you're subscribed, because people have been getting forcibly unsubscribed from all of our channels. And subscribe, like the video. If you're watching right now, press that like button. Everybody, it's 168 people watching. I expect everybody to hit that like button right now. Share the video, but more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.